All right, Rabbi, say good morning. We have a beautiful daf ahead of us today. Let's thank our sponsors, to thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Sivan, Baruch Meir and Rina Dubin, for the Zechus, the Hashem continuing to protect our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, and all of our children who are learning in Eretz Yisrael remain safe and complete their year of learning with a deep connection to the land and to Hashem's Torah. To thank Naftoli and Chava Tilson from Eretz Yisrael for dedicating being a Talmud Torah sponsor this month. Thank you. Naftoli thanks his chaver Benjamin Wohl for introducing him to the daf, and concludes with the bracha. May Hashem bless us all to finish the Daf Yomi cycle together and celebrate with a siyum together in Eretz Yisrael with much hakara satov. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsor Marc Karstaedt for dedicating all of the shiurim and drashos this month in memory of his mother Chana Bat Shraggai, Zichron Livracha. Our week of learning sponsors Leah Soul in memory of her mother Marguerite Streit, commemoration of her 9th yahrzeit. Jeff and Karen Cohn in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Meir Axman, Meir Ben Mordechai. Our Daf Yomi sponsors for today, Chaim and Rachel Rabenstein, in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Chaim's father, Baruch Naftoli Ben Hachaver Moshe, and Dr. and Mrs. Moshe Gevant, Le'ilui Nishmas, our teachers, the Tana Abba Shalom of Eretz Yisrael, and the Amora Abaye of Bavel, beautiful, on the occasion of our Daf Yomi shiur, reaching their discussion of Beis HaMikdash service that we recite every morning in our tefillas. May the Gemara we learn today in the merit serve us in good stead until the dedication of the third Beis HaMikdash and the reinstitution of the Seder Ha'ma'aracha, Bishon the Gemara Aliba Dabashal. Beautiful. And our last Daf Yomi sponsor for today, Natan Alea Berry, a commemoration of the yahrzeit of Natan's grandmother, Devora Bas Zev. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an Aliyah, the families in Nechama, and the merit Hashem, of course, it goes without saying that we dedicate our learning today and each and every day as we see that the operation in Gaza increases in its scope and intensity, and that now there are soldiers in Gaza on the ground. We hope and we daven each and every day that HaKadosh Baruch Hu provide Shmir Yisera for our soldiers, and the Merit Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu should allow them to be successful in their mission, should allow them, give them koach and mamish the battle against evil. They should Merit Hashem be successful, and they should Merit Hashem return to their families, and Merit Hashem whole, complete, and b'shalom, and halabai. We should be zocha, Am Yisrael should be zocha, the world should be zocha for a period of everlasting shalom. I will say with that, let us begin. So we are picking up today's daf is Lamed Gimel, and we are picking up a lot to do today, Baruch Hashem. So first of all, I want to show you, we're going to do the Rambam last. I sent it out to you, because I'm hedging my bets a little bit, but I sent it out to you, and I sent it out on the WhatsApp chat, the Rambam. So in Meretz Hashem, we will get to that. So we are picking up Hevielo as Hatamid Karsa. So remember again, the Gemara said, the Mishnah said that they bring the carbon tamid to the Kohen Gadol and kartso. So kartso, we'll say, we know we means he does the shchita. So says the Gemara, my kartso, what does kartso mean? Amar ula lishna diktalahu. It's a lashon of shchita. So they would go ahead, they shechted the carbon tamid, right? They shechted the carbon tamid. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Maikra. What's the pasuk that indicates this? So the Gemara says, Egla yafya mitzrayim, karatz mitzafon ba. So we'll say the Gemara quotes the pasuk over here from Yirmiyahu, which literally means a beautiful calf. A beautiful cat. Well, let's read it. My mashma, what does the pasuk mean? Kedimetagim Rav Yosef, Malka yoy havim Mitzrayim. Egypt was a fair kingdom. So that's the reference to the calf. Amamin ketulin mitzifona yasun alei. But murderous nations from the north came upon it. So both say, so you see over here, karatz mitzafon. So you see that lashon of karatz means murderous. So karatz means shchita. So the Gemara says, so the Kohen Gadol would go ahead and literally it sounds like begin the shchita of the tamid. So karatz of a camel. So we'll say, when we say begin the shchita, how much is that? Amar ula berov shnayim. Ula says the majority of the two simanim. Remember again the kan and the veshet, the esophagus and the windpipe. V'chein Amar Rav Yochanan berov shnayim. Rav Yochanan said also majority of the two simanim, which will say. So to be clear, remember that's a kasher shchita. All you have to do, you don't have to shecht, you don't have to cut the entirety of the simanim. You just have to cut the majority of both simanim. Berov shnayim. Reish Lakish also said the majority of two simanim. Dam Reish Lakish shechimi achar sheshaninu rubo shel echad kamahu After we already established that shechting the majority of one siman is like shechting the entirety, lama shaninu rov echad ba'of rov shnayim bebehema. So then why does the Brisa subsequently say that by an oaf you have to shecht the whole siman, and by a behema you have to shecht two? To which the Gemara says, or rov two, lefisha shaninu hevelo asatamid kartso merak achar shchita yodo v'kiba las hadam v'zarko. Because remember again, what did the Mishnah say? So the Mishnah read that halacha l'maisa, they bring the carbon tummy to the kohen gadol. He goes ahead and he shechts kartzo, right? He goes ahead and shechts. Someone else, another kohen, goes ahead and finishes up. The kohen gadol does the kabbalah, and then afterwards does the zrika. So says the Gemara, yachol lo meirak yehei pasel. So you might have thought that if the other kohen does not finish up the avodah, that it will be pasel. So the Gemara says, imkein havi le avodah ba'achar. Then I will say that can't be, because then at the end of the day, halacha l'maisa, it'll end up being the avodah through someone else. In other words, I will say, it must be that whatever the kohen gadol is doing, it's a complete avodah. It must be that it's a complete avodah. Why? Because if it's not a complete avodah, that means that the avodah is being done by someone else, and of course, that's halachically problematic. Utinan kol avodos Yom Kippurim einon ksheros ela bo. And above say we learned that all of the avodos of Yom Kippur are only kosher with the kohen gadol. This is what it means to say. Yachol yehei pasel midrabanan. You might have thought that if the other kohen doesn't finish the shchita, it will be pasel midrabanan. Top of lamed gimel kach shanin rov echad ba'of rov shnayim behema. Therefore, again, the Gemara says, all you need is rov echad ba'of and rov echad and rov shnayim behema. All you need, halacha l'maisa, is the majority of one siman by the bird and the majority of two simanim by the behema. So we'll say, even though the second kohen comes along and cuts the rest, whatever the kohen gadol does a kasher shchita. So the kohen gadol bepashtos is cutting the majority of the two simanim, and the second kohen comes along and finishes off, cuts the rest of the simanim. But what the kohen gadol did by himself is absolutely kosher, bona fide act of shchita. It has to be, because remember, at the end of the day, all of the avodah of Yom Kippur must be done by the kohen. I will say, and to illustrate this in the most extreme way, if there were not to be a second kohen who would come along and do the shchita and finish it up, why shouldn't do the shchita and finish it up? The shchita would be absolutely fine. There wouldn't even be a psul midrabanan. To which the Gemara says, well, if that's the case, achar da afilu psula midrabanan leka, then I will say, if that's the case, that if the second kohen were to not finish cutting, it wouldn't even be a psul drabanan, then lama li lamarik. Why are we doing this? As well say, so why don't you just leave it alone? Why don't you just let the kohen gadol do his thing? Right, go ahead, cut the majority of the two simanim, go ahead and do the kabbalah, then do the zrika. Why do you need a second kohen to finish cutting the rest of the siman if what the kohen gadol did is kosher? And technically speaking, if the second kohen never did anything, it wouldn't impact the shechit at all. So leave it alone. To which the Gemara says, no, mitzvah lamarik. It is a mitzvah to finish cutting the rest of the siman. Why? Rashi says, kadei lahotzias adam yafeh. Because I will say, the goal over here is, obviously, once you just cut the majority of two simanim, the shechita is kshera. But remember, we want the blood. We want the blood for zrika. So the Gemara says, if you cut both simanim fully, the blood comes out more freely. So therefore, again, in order to facilitate an easier Kabbalah on the part of the Kohen Gadol, the second Kohen comes along after the Kohen Gadol has done a bona fide halachic kosher shchita. So then the second Kohen comes along and finishes off the process by cutting the rest of the siman. But to be clear, the cutting of the rest of the siman is not really necessary for shchita purposes. The Gemara turns out, it says the cutting of the rest of the siman is really necessary for what? For Kabbalah purposes. It just makes it easier ultimately to receive the dam, to receive the blood. Good. So we'll say we have a very exciting Gemara over here. Listen to how this begins. Abaye, and this is what Dr. Gevant was alluding to in his dedication. Abaye misader ma'aracha mishmei di Gemara va'aliba dabashal. So we see this every single day in davening. This is right after the Parsha Sakitoras. before Ezehu Mekomon. We recite this paragraph. Is quite exciting. Abaye arranged the order of the Ma'aracha. And we're going to see the order of the Ma'aracha means Abaye decided to put together the order of temple service, just to give you the kind of the flow of temple service in accordance with the position of Abba Shaul. So we'll say, here we go. This is very exciting. So here is the order of Beis HaMikdash service. Ma'aracha Gidola, Kodemes LeMa'aracha Shnia Shel Kitoras. So we'll say, remember again, I'm sorry, I meant to send out the pictures, but I'll try to show them to you over here. Actually, the truth is, you could look at, if you have your Beis HaMikdash diagram, you could see this on the Beis HaMikdash diagram as well. So we'll say, so for example, just some, sorry. So on the Beis HaMikdash diagram, you could see over here, if you look at the aerial view of your Beis HaMikdash, so you could see ultimately, again, there is a Ma'aracha Gidola and a Ma'aracha Shnia. There is a large pyre, and then there is a smaller pyre. You can see this crisscross wood that is arranged on top of the Mizbeach. So let's say here you can see, actually I'll show you a good aerial view of this. So this is the Beis HaMikdash. This is the Mizbeach. So you can see the Mizbeach over here. You have a Ma'aracha Gidola, a large pyre, and ultimately again a Ma'aracha Kitana, a smaller pyre. Right? So therefore again Abaye says, and again we'll be referencing, so if you have your Beis HaMikdash map, always keep your Beis HaMikdash map with you and open. Again, it's Klal Gadol. It's always good to have the Beis HaMikdash open and ready in front of you. So you'll see. So the Gemara says. So first order of business was Ma'areches Gidola Kedomis La Ma'areches Shnia Shel Kitoras. So the first order of business was the large pyre was arranged before the smaller pyre. Now we'll say. Now it says Ma'arecha Gidola Ma'arecha Shnia Shel Kitoras. So we'll say. So just to understand. The large pyre, right, the large pyre of wood was used ultimately again to burn karbanos. So remember again, I'm sorry, one more time. Let's take a look at this. So remember, if you are looking at your Beis HaMikdash, if you're looking at your Mizbeach, so also you could see this on your aerial view of the Mizbeach as well, the outer Mizbeach. So remember again, you have the middle pile. Remember again, what's that? Middle pile? Deshen, right? That's ash. That's just the accumulation of sacrificial ash. That was left there until it just became too much and had to be cleared out, because that was considered to be a shevach. That was considered to be an incredible thing for the Beis HaMikdash to show the carbonic value. Okay? Then you had Ma'aracha Gidol, a large pyre. This is the pyre upon which karbanos were off. When they burnt sacrificial limbs, this is what it was burnt on. It wasn't burnt in the middle, it was burnt over here. Now that second pyre that we call Ma'aracha Shnia Shel Kitoras, we'll say, what does that mean? That's the pyre from which they produced the coals that would be used for the burning of the Kitoras. Now remember, Kitoras was not burnt on the outer Mizbeach. Where was Kitoras burnt? Inside the Beis HaMikdash, on the Mizbeach Shel Zahav, on the outer Mizbeach. On the inner Mizbeach, on the inner golden Mizbeach. So halacha l'maisa, but the coals to go ahead and burn the Ketores were made on the top of the Mizbeach itself. So therefore again, so the Gemara says as follows, Ma'aracha Gidola Kedemes La Ma'aracha Shnia Shel Ketores. So the first thing they would arrange in the Beis HaMikdash was the Ma'aracha Gidola, the large pyre. That came before the arrangement of the smaller pyre, which was really just used to produce coals for the Ketores. Ma'aracha Shnia Shel Ketores. Then I will say, so again, we're following the progression. So Ma'aracha Gidola for karbanos. Next, Ma'aracha Shnia Shel Ketores, smaller pyre to produce coals to burn Ketores. Next, Ma'aracha Shnia Shel Ketores, Kodemes L'Sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. So we'll say then the arrangement of the pyre for the Ketores came before the Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. Remember again, every single day the Kohen had the obligation to bring up 2 pieces of wood. Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. Those 2 pieces of wood were brought up to the Mizbeach. So Ketores comes before the Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. V'sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim Kodem L'Dishun HaMizbeach HaPnimi. And ultimately again, the arrangement or the bringing up of the two pieces of wood, came before the cleaning out of the inner altar. Remember again, Dishun Mizbeach HaPanimi, the inner altar, the golden Mizbeach, upon which Ketoris was burned. The Dishun Mizbeach HaPanimi, the cleaning out of the inner Mizbeach, Kodem Lahatavas Chamesh Neros. That came before the cleaning out, or really again, we'll call it the cleaning and the arranging of the 5 neros. So also remember again, we had a number of probably two weeks ago, we had this discussion that the avoda of the menorah was split into 2 parts, right? A 5 and 2, right? First we went ahead and we arranged 5 of the candles, then we did another avoda in the middle, we'll discuss what that is, and then we finished the other 2. So the Gemara says, so the cleaning out, or the removal of ash from the inner mizbeach, preceded the cleaning out of 5 of the neros of the menorah. V'hatavas chamesh neros, the cleaning out of the 5 neros, came before kodem l'dam tamid, comes before the blood application of the carbon tamid. The dam tamid, the application of the tamid blood, kodem l'hatavas shtei neros, came before the arrangement of the second 2 neros. So I see here, you see, it was the sprinkling of the tamid blood that came in the middle of the menorah service. So you would go ahead and clean out and arrange 5 of the lamps of the menorah, sprinkle the dam of the tamid, and then come back and clean out and arrange the other 2. So remember again, this is in the morning. So in the morning, I'm not lighting the menorah, right? In the morning, I'm arranging the menorah. I'm cleaning and arranging. Menorah will be lit in the afternoon. So the Gemara says, "Vatava and then again, the preparation, the cleaning out and the preparation of the final 2 lamps, kodem liktores, came before ketores. Ukitores kodem leivarim, and then I will say you would offer up the ketores. Then after the ketores came the burning of the sacrificial limbs of the tamid. The ivarim lemincha, you would then burn the sacrificial limbs before you would go ahead and bring the carbon mincha. Or I should say in mincha. Umincha lechavitin. I will say, remember again, this mincha and chavitin, these were the accompaniments, right? These were the accessories, carbonic accessories, so to speak, to the carbon tamid. So right, the limbs came before the mincha came before the chavitin. And also remember again, we spoke about this, right? That the chavitin was also the special mincha that was brought by the Kohen Gadol. V'chavitin l'nesachin. The chavitin came before the wine libations. U'nesachin l'musafin. And nesachin came before musafin. I will say, now musafin obviously only applies when you're offering up a Karban Musaf. So whatever it is, Shabbos, Yom Tiv, whenever, or Shchodesh, Musafin lebazichin, and the Musafin came before the bazichin. I will say, now we're getting into more specific avodas that didn't apply every day. So remember again, Musaf only applies on the day when there's a Karban Musaf. Bazichin, I will say, remember again, are the 2 spoons of frankincense. So remember again, on the shulchan itself, you would put 2 spoons. You say spoons, it's really like ladles. 2 ladles of frankincense. So I will say, those were put on the shulchan when the new lechem hapanim was put on Shabbos. The following Shabbos, when the quote-unquote old lechem hapanim was removed, and the new lechem hapanim was put on the shulchan, the quote-unquote old levona, the old frankincense, right? The old bazichin were taken off and offered up on the mizbeach. So obviously that's a din in Shabbos. So the Gemara says, ubazichen l'tamid shel bein arbaim, and the offering up of the bazichin. So now we're transitioning through the day. The bazichin would come before the afternoon tamid. Shneimar v'hiktir ale chel v'hashlamim. So because interestingly enough, the tamid shel bein arbaim, the afternoon tamid, was the last carbon of the day. That's how temple service ended. Because the pasuk says, "Viktor aleh chal v'ashlamim aleh hashleim kalar karbanos kulam." Carbon tamid is the carbon with which you conclude all sacrificial service. And I will say, now the truth is there were other things that happened. The Gemara makes it sound like between the bazichin and the carbon tamid, that was it. The truth is we already see what's missing from here. The menorah is missing from here, the actual kindling of the menorah. So there was other things that happened in the afternoon. We'll fill in those blanks in just a bit. But the point that the Gemara is making, which is a very important point, is that the final and concluding service of the day was the carbon tamush l'bein Abayim. So we'll say, so here you have it. Abaye, and this is actually very helpful because I think it's very exciting to go through the Beis Hamikdash, but there's so much happening. The beauty of what Abaye just did in according to Daf Yomi is he just gave you the entire timeline of events. Now, what I do want to point out is something very interesting. If you notice again, what's missing from Abaye's timeline or his schedule over here? It's interesting. What's missing? Trumas Hadeshen, right, is missing. Interestingly enough, in other words, the beginning, he has Dishun Mizbeach HaPanimi, but he doesn't have Dishun Mizbeach HaChitzon. So this also goes in. So again, that was the opening part. He doesn't necessarily have to be reckoned as part of Avoda, even though it is Avoda, but Lamais is just interesting that it's not there. Okay, any event. So we'll say, so now we have the list. So now you have the entire list of the Avoda in the Beis HaMikdash. Now what we're going to do, the Gemara is going to go on and try to explain from where do we know this? I say, how do I manage to put together this list? In other words, how do I know what precedes what? So I will say, here we go. Very exciting. Amar Mar, Ma'aracha Gidola Kodemus LaMa'aracha Shniya Shaktar. So it's the first order of business. It's right in Abaye's timeline or in his progression. The first thing that occurs is the arrangement of the large pyre of wood. Ma'aracha Gidola, upon which the karbanos were burned. So the Gemara said, Abaye said, that comes before the arrangement of the small pyre, which was used to go ahead and create coals for the burning of ketores. So says the Gemara, from where do I know that? The Sanya, because we learned in the Brayso, Hi ha'ola al mukda al mizbeach kala layla. When the pasuk says this is the ola, which is situated on the mizbeach the entire night, zu ma'aracha gidola. So I'll say this refers to the large ma'aracha. The Eisha mizbeach tukadbo, and the fire of the mizbeach ultimately again will take hold in it. Zu ma'aracha shniya shel ketores. This refers ultimately again to the second ma'aracha. Ultimately, again, that was used for the ketores. So we'll say, so what's the idea? The idea the Gemara says is you see that the Ma'aracha Gidol was mentioned before the Ma'aracha Kitana, and therefore the large pyre is created before the smaller one. So the Gemara says, I've epokana, but how do you know that? In other words, maybe you could switch them around. In other words, we'll say, these are nondescript terms. How do you know which is referring to which? To which the Gemara says, Mistavra Ma'aracha Gidola Adifa, Shekin Kaparasa Meruba. We'll say it makes sense to go ahead and first set up the Ma'aracha Gidola before the Ma'aracha Kitana. Why? Because I will say the Ma'aracha Gidola, the Gemara used Lashon of Kaparasa Meruba. There's a lot of kapara, there's a lot of atonement that takes place through the Ma'aracha Gidola. If you look at Rashi, Kaparasa Meruba, Sha'aleha Maktirim Kol Aktaros, Chutz Min Aktaros Lefnim Lehechal, because we'll say the Ma'aracha Gidola is used for everything other than ketores. Right? The Ma'aracha Kitana is only used for ketores. Ma'aracha Gidola used for everything other than ketores. So it makes sense that what? It makes sense that the arrangement of the Ma'aracha Gidola would precede the arrangement of the Ma'aracha Kitana. Says the Gemara, Adraba, Ma'aracha Shniya Adifa. I can make just the opposite argument. And I can say that the smaller Ma'aracha, right, the Ma'aracha Kitana for Ketores is more important. Why? Shekin Machnisin Mimena Lifnim. Because I will say, remember again, it creates the coals that are used for indoor service in the Beis HaMikdash, which I will say is pretty chashiv, right? Service that happens inside the Beis HaMikdash, Bepashtos, has Gerach Hashivos, then the avodah that happens outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Afilu hachi kaparasa meruba adifa. Nevertheless, I will say we see from here that kaparasa meruba, more sustained or more frequent avoda, is more chashiv. I will say it goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. That when you look at the value of the Ma'aracha Gidola versus the Ma'aracha Kitana, on one hand, the Ma'aracha Kitana ultimately has an exalted use, is that it's used for the ketores inside of the Beis HaMikdash on the Mizbeach Hazav. But I will say it's infrequent. Versus the Mizbeach HaZahav, the Mizbeach HaNechoshes, the large outer altar, the Ma'aracha Gidola is used for everything all of the time. That pyre is used for all sacrificial service except one thing. So the Gemara is arguing, so which has greater chashivos? Something that is infrequent, but when it occurs, mamish is heilig, is holy, or something which occurs with greater frequency, even though, again, perhaps the activity that happens on it is not as dynamic. And what do you see? What do you see? The Gemara says, frequency is everything. Frequency is everything. It is better to be the kind of person who engages in sustained spiritual activity, right? Even if it's not always so great, than to be the episodic, the episodic spiritual individual. In other words, episodic spirituality is very nice, but we'll say, but obviously it's episodic, right? It's episodic. It's not really sustainable. And this is so important that it is so much better to be a consistent, ongoing Jew, even if you're not always inspired, than to have bursts of inspiration, but for them to be few and far between. It is so much better to be an outer Mizbeach than it is to be an inner Mizbeach. It's better to be a Ma'aracha Gedola than it is to be a Ma'aracha Kitana. Incredible. Says the Gemara, V'bai Sema. Obviously the goal is consistency and inspiration altogether, but very often, it's hard to establish both. So we'll say it's because so often we think that the goal is inspiration, and so no person is perpetually inspired. That's the Gemara saying. The goal is consistency. Sometimes I'm inspired, sometimes I'm not inspired, but I'm going to try to be as consistent as I can. Furthermore, the Gemara says, in the event that I don't find furthermore, let's say for some reason one day you didn't have enough wood, and so you didn't make the ma'aracha shniya. Where would you take the coals from for the ketoras? Where would you take it from? From the ma'aracha gedola. So you see from here that the ma'aracha gedola is alamailas, right? It has many qualities. Number one, it's used with greater frequency. And number two, in the event that for some reason you didn't have the ma'aracha kitana, you would in fact take the coals from the ma'aracha gedola. Good. Ma'aracha shniya shal ketoras kodemus l'sidish. So step one, ma'aracha gedola. Step two, ma'aracha shniya, that's used for ketoras. Step three, ma'aracha shniya shal ketoras kodemus l'sidish shnei gizrei eitzim. Step three is bringing up the two additional pieces of wood. So, Manalan, how do I know that comes after Ma'aracha Kitano? Tichsiv ubir ala koin itzim baboker. Pasuk says the kohen shall burn wood on it baboker every single morning. 2 bokers. Aleha v'lo al chaverta. On it and not on its friend, which means not on the ma'aracha kitana for ketoras. Michlal de'isa lechaverta, which tells us, Rabbi said, that what? The fact that the Torah says that you have to burn the 2 pieces of wood aleha on the ma'aracha gidola and not on the ma'aracha kitana tells us that what? That by the time you bring up the 2 pieces of wood, the ma'aracha kitana is already there. Good. So therefore, again, ma'aracha gidola, Ma'aracha Kitana, Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. But one second, I need that pasuk to teach me the Ikra Halacha, namely, that you burn the Shnei Gizrei Eitzim on the Ma'aracha Gidola, to which the Gemara says, Trei Aleh Ksiva. It says Aleh twice. One to teach me that it's burnt on the Ma'aracha Gidola, and one to teach me that the Ma'aracha Kitana comes before the Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. Okay, so we'll say that was step 3. Shnei Gizrei Eitzim Kodim L'Dishim Mizbeach HaPanimi. Step 4. The cleaning out of the inner mizbeach. So we'll say, so again, ma'aracha gidola, ma'aracha kitana, shnei gizrei eitzim, and now cleaning out of the inner mizbeach. Sa'af agav dehacha ksiv baboker, even though it says over here, baboker, v'hacha ksiv baboker. So we'll say, even though again, both by shnei gizrei eitzim, it says baboker, 2 bokers, and by cleaning out of the inner mizbeach, it says baboker. Nevertheless, afilu hachi machshir adif. We'll say a preparatory act ultimately again has greater chashivas than the sacrificial act itself. What's the preparatory act? Shnei gizrei eitzim, 2 pieces of wood. So we'll say, so this is actually quite fascinating. So the Gemara assumes that a preparatory act, i.e. the 2 pieces of wood, has greater chashivos than the cleaning off of the mizbeach. Right? Why? Because we'll say the logic is because a preparatory act enables actual avoda to occur. Therefore, that's greater chashivos. But you said that Allah l'maisa the shnei gizrei eitzim ultimately go to the ma'aracha gedola, to which the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, shum eitzim. So we'll say, interestingly enough, what the Gemara says, it's a preparatory act. What it means is like this, that the burning of the shnei gizrei eitzim is considered to be a preparatory act for the ketoras, and therefore it comes before the cleaning off of the mizbeach ha-ketoras. But 1 second, the shnei gizrei eitzim is not burnt on the small ma'aracha that's used for ketoras. The shnei gizrei eitzim is burnt on the large ma'aracha, which is used for animal sacrifice. Nevertheless, it's called eitzim. It has the chalosh shem. Eitzim is a chalosh shem wood, and therefore it's considered to be a preparatory act. If you look at Rashi, shum eitzim afagav the honey lav leketoras azli shem eitzim machshiri ketoras saying. So we'll say, even though again the shnei gizrei eitzim are actually not going to be used for ketoras, but it has the shem of wood. And wood is ultimately used as a preparatory act for the ketoras itself. Incredible. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, shum eitzim arasim. Ravina Amar, hol v'hislam ma'aracha gomer. Ravina says it's simpler. We want to finish up anything to do with the ma'aracha. So since I started with the ma'aracha gedola, and then I went ahead and did the ma'aracha kitana, it makes sense to do the shnei gizrei eitzim before the cleaning out of the inner mizbeach. Because the shnei gizrei eitzim, Rabbi say, is what? Is the final step in the preparation of the ma'arachos. Now those are done. Once those are done, now we could transition to the cleaning off of the mizbeach. Rav Ashi Amar, ilo mashkach eitzim l'ma'aracha shniya, milo mimayel ma'aracha gedola. And again, Rav Ashi says the same thing before. It makes sense that the shnei gizrei eitzim comes before anything to do with the golden mizbeach, because it's a preparatory act for the mizbeach. Because in the event that we can't find coals from the ma'aracha kitana, we'll take it from the ma'aracha gedola, so it makes sense to finish off the ma'aracha gedola. So we'll say, so therefore again, so now we have our order. Ma'aracha gedola, ma'aracha kitana, shnei gizrei eitzim, dishun mizbeach hapanimi, the cleaning out of the inner mizbeach. Next, v'dishun mizbeach hapanimi, kodem la'atavas chamesh neiros. So we'll say now we have the cleaning out of the golden altar of the inner mizbeach before the arrangement of 5 of the candles or 5 of the lamps of the menorah. So the Gemara says, my time, what's the reason? Amar Abaye, Gemara gamirna svar lo yadana. Abaye says, all I know is that this is our Masorah. I don't know the reason. But Rava Amar Rava says, Reish Lakish and Reish Lakish, ein ma'avirin al ha-mitzvahs. They both say this is incredible. So Abaye says, Rava says, like Reish Lakish, I'll tell you why. Because you can't go ahead and pass by mitzvahs. When a mitzvah opportunity comes your way, you can't pass by. I will say, look at the last Rashi and Daf, in ma'avirin ha-pogea b'mitzvah. If one comes in contact with a mitzvah, lo ya'abar mimenu, you can't pass it by. V'nafkulon b'mechilta ushmartem es hamitzvos v'karibei ushmartem es hamatzos v'karibei es hamitzvos lo tamtin lo shetachmitz v'tisyashin. So we actually learn this from a drasha. Ushmartem es hamatzos. The Torah says you shall guard the matzos to make sure they don't become chametz. But the Chazal darshan ushmartem es hamitzvos. Make sure mitzvos don't become chametz. Mitzvah abal yadecha al tachnitzena. When you see opportunities, grab them, which teaches us this concept of ein ma'avirin ala mitzvos. We don't allow mitzvos to pass by. Now we'll say, what does that have to do with our sugya? Amud Beis, v'chi aya leheichol, when you come into the heichol, the mizbeach pagaresha. The first thing you encounter, Rabbi say, when you come into the Beis Hamikdash is what? Is the Mizbeach. So Rabbi say, so just to show you this for just a moment, you're not going to be able to see it. But remember, when the Kohen Gadol walks into the Beis Hamikdash, actually you could see it on your Beis Hamikdash map. You could see it go back to your Beis Hamikdash map for just a moment. So Rabbi say, so take a look. When the Kohen Gadol enters into the Beis Hamikdash, you go in, you follow me, and you pass in the Mizbeach. Go and look at the letters. Through Lamed Daled, through Gimel, Beis. You enter into Beis, you're now in the Heichal. Both say, you see in front of the Beis, you see that little square right in front of you? That little square is the Mizbeach. So if you're the Kohen Gadol, you walk in. The first thing you encounter when you enter is the Mizbeach. Remember again, the menorah is to your left, the Shulchan is to your right. You can see the aerial view of that. But the first thing you encounter when you walk in is the Mizbeach. So the Gemara says, therefore, the order of things is first the Kohen Gadol is going to go ahead and clear off the Mizbeach. Only then is he going to go to the menorah. Why? Ein ma'avirin al ha-mitzvahs. We do not go ahead and pass by mitzvahs. Says the Gemara, this sanya, because we learned Shulchan B'tzafon. The Shulchan is situated in the north. Mashuch min ha-kosel shtei amas hamechza. and it is pulled about 2.5 amas away from the wall. Umenorah b'darom, the menorah is in the south. Meshucha min hakosel shtei amos, also pulled about 2.5 amas away from the wall. Mizbeach memutza ba'omed be'emtza, umashach klape chutz kima. Ultimately, again, the mizbeach is in the middle, and it's pulled a little bit out. Pulled a little bit out means it's pulled out a little bit towards the entrance. Says the Gemara, v'nukme lahadayu. Why don't you just make the menorah, mizbeach, and shulchan in one straight line? In other words, I will say, if you look, again, I don't know how helpful seeing my pictures is going to be, but I'm very proud of my pictures, so I'm going to share them with you. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see it, but you can see from the aerial view. You can see from the aerial view, I'll say, so why don't we just arrange everything in one line? To which the Gemara says, the menorah has to be opposite the shulchan. The chazu ahadadi. She will say, quote unquote, the menorah and the shulchan must be able to see each other. So Rabbi say, so because they have to see each other, there can't be anything obstructing the view from the menorah, from the shulchan. So Rabbi says, this is incredibly important. So just remember, you're the Kohen, you're walking due west. You're walking in due west, right? So remember, you walk into the Heichal, you walk into the Beis HaMikdash. So remember, again, you go ahead and right in front of you, the first thing you see center is the golden Mizbeach. If you go left, you'll see the shulchan. You'll see the menorah. If you go right, you'll see the shulchan. And of course, right ahead of you is what? The curtain, the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So therefore, again, the Gemara suggests that the order, because you walk in, the first thing you hit is the Mizbeach. Therefore, again, first you take care of removing the ash of the Mizbeach, and only then do you veer left and ultimately go and take care of the menorah. Both said this is incredible. Amar Rava, Shema mina midireish lakish, avurei dara totefta aser. So we'll say, now that we established this idea of in ma'avirin ala mitzvahs, we learn what? That when putting on tefillin, you must put on your tefillin shal yad before you put on your tefillin shal rosh. Because we'll say, listen to this, because remember, if I put on my shal rosh first, then what am I doing? I'm passing over my arm. In other words, we'll say that again, my arm is closer to me than my head. In other words, in the swing of my arm, I first pass by my arm over my head. So therefore, again, Rava says, the Gemara, so you learn from here, once you say ima avirin ala mitzvahs, that you have to put on your shal yad before you put on your shal rosh. Hechi avid, what should you do? Madra l'tos hefta. Ultimately, again, you have to put on your shal yad before you put on your shal rosh. Look at Rashi. Avuri dara totefta la'achar tefillin shebizra b'shil tefillin shal rosh. Aser, you cannot delay the putting on of your tefillin shal rosh, shal yad. For shal rosh, da bizra paga tchila, because you hit you touch your arm before you touch your head. So we'll say, very quickly, Tosas points out over here, what are you talking about? It's a pasuk. Ukshartim li'os al yadecha, va'yula totafos beinenecha. The Torah says that you put on shal yad before you put on shal rosh. So why does the Gemara here make it sound that this is a din of ein ma'avir ala mitzvahs? So we'll say, take a look at Tosas in just a moment. This is incredible. So skip down a little bit. Skip down. We'll say, see that about in the short lines of Tosas, about 4 lines in the Farsha Beinu Tam, B'Shem Rav Haigon Zatzal, Da'ari B'Shah Shecholitz Tefillin, Umanichan Batik, Shelo Ya'avir Osen Shal Yad V'Yitneim Batik Tchila, V'Achar Kach Shorosh Lamala, De'imkin Kishevo La'aniach Tefillin, B'Shorosh Tchila, V'Yitzarich Lahavir Ala Mizos Mishum Shal Yad. We'll say, listen to this. Rabbeinu Tam says, you're right. It's not about how you put on tefillin. Because let's remember again, how you put on tefillin, that order of Shal Yad before Shal Rosh, that's determined by the pasuk. What is it talking about? How you put away your tefillin, Rabosai. That remember, he's talking about, they have this now, like in Eretz Yisrael, you see this. I think Michael has one of these, right? The thermos tefillin bags, right? So we'll say you have to be careful that you always put your shal yad on top of your shal rosh. Why? Because when taking out your tefillin, you cannot pass by your shal rosh in order to put on your shal yad. That's what it says Rabbeinu Tam. That you have to be careful when putting away your tefillin. So again, if you have a regular tefillin bag and you put them side by side, it's not a big deal. But if you're putting the tefillos one on top of the other, you have to make sure to position the shal yad on top of the shal rosh in order that you don't have to pass by the shal rosh to get the shel yad to put it on, because passing by the shorosh in order to get the shel yad would be a problem of ein ma'abirin ala mitzvah. So we'll say, machlokis Rashi Tosas. Rashi says literally it's talking about that you have to put on the shel yad before the shorosh because ein ma'abirin ala mitzvahs. Tosas says, that's true. You put on the shel yad before the shorosh, but I don't need a marvin al mitzvahs. It's a mefurish pasuk in the Torah. So therefore, Rabbeinu Tam says it teaches me that I'm putting away my tefillin, put them away in a way that the next morning when you put them on, you don't have to pass over the shel yad, the shorosh, in order to get to the shel yad. Incredible. So the Gemara goes weiter. Let's continue in our order. Right, so you've got Maracha Gedola, Maracha Kitana, Shnei Gizrei Eitzim, Dishul Mizbeach HaPanimi. Now, next is the cleaning out of the 5 bulbs of the menorah. Then I will say, ultimately, again, I have the cleaning out of the menorah, and that comes before the blood applications of the tamid. And then I will say, so remember again, so I have 5 neros, blood of the tamid, 2 neros. So the Gemara says, my timer. We'll say, why is that? Hahu baboker baboker. So the Gemara says, "Hu baboker baboker the shnei gizrei eitzim de lo tzrichi the baboker baboker the 2 bokers." So we'll say which the Gemara uses to establish precedence. So the 2 bokers that I have by shnei gizrei eitzim, which I don't need by shnei gizrei eitzim, de lo tzrichi shadinhu lahacha. Ultimately, again, use them over here. Chad shavye lahatavas chamesh neros. One of the babokers, which teaches us a precedence, used to go ahead and establish. First thing you do is clean out 5 of the lamps of the menorah. Deliktimi ledamatamid, that should come before damatamid. V'chad shadje ledamatamid, then use one of those bokers for damatamid. Dinekadne lahatavash neros, and that's used ultimately to teach me that the blood of the tamid comes before the last 2 neros. Chad shavye lahatavas, chad shadye lahatavas chamesh neros. Delikadmi ledamtamid. So one of the babokers is used to teach you that the 5 lamps of the menorah come before the dam of the tamid. Dahacha tlasa v'hacha trei, because here you have 3 bokers and here you have 2. V'chad shadje ledama tamid, denikadme latavas shtei neros, and use one of the bokers ultimately to teach me that the dama tamid comes before the remaining 2 neros. Afagav dahacha trei v'hacha trei mechaper adif. Even though halacha lemaisa, I have 2 bokers by the dama tamid and 2 bokers by the menorah, it would appear that the dam hatamid comes before the remaining 2 lamps of the menorah. Why? Because the dam hatamid is a mechaper. It atones, and the menorah doesn't atone. Or maybe ultimately, again, one is to teach me that the cleaning out of the inner altar, of the inner mizbeach, comes before the dam of the tamid. Because here there's 3 and one here there's 2. We'll say, again, we're just kind of weighing bokers against each other. Like the more bokers you have, the earlier in the process you are. And use one of them to teach me that the dam hatamid comes before all 5 of the neros. Because even though here you have 2 and here you have 2, and maybe the blood should come before all of the neros. To which the Gemara says, "Imkain afsuki b'mayim ifsakis lahu." So we'll say, here's the issue. We know, we already learned this before, that the arrangement of the menorah is split up into 2 parts. We already know that. So the issue is, what is the menorah going to be split? What is going to divide between the 5 and the 2 of the menorah, if not the blood of the tamid? So So we'll say, now listen to this. Let's go back for just a moment. I understand if you hold that the menorah is split up into 2 services, like Reish Lakish. Because Reish Lakish says, why do we do this? Kedei lahargish kula ha'azara shapir. So we'll say, according to Reish Lakish, we divide up the arrangement of the menorah, because we'll say, what does it do? It creates an excitement. We'll say, how do you create excitement? You create excitement by running all over the place, right? So the Kohen goes out and does 5 neros. Then he stops. Then he does the tamid. You remember, he's going inside, outside. He goes tamid, back and forth. It's exciting. It creates a rash. We'll say, according to Rabbi Yochanan, who holds that everything is based on the bokers. So how do you know to split it up the way we said? Furthermore, is the baboker of the eitzim, is it extra? Is it really extra? To which the Gemara says, Hami boile legufei. ultimately, again, it's needed for its own halacha. The Kam Rachmana, Nikadmu Lama'aracha Shniya Shel Ketores. It's coming to teaching about, say, ultimately, again, that it comes before the Ma'aracha of the Ketores. Amarlei, Valav Miukimna Alei Velo Achaverta. Did we not already establish, Rabosai, that by the time you're bringing the Shnei Gizrei to the Ma'aracha, Ketana is already arranged? Michlal Di Isi Lechaverta. Ultimately, which tells me that the Ma'aracha Ketana is already there before the Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. So Maishna, we'll say one more line. Maishna da'avid hatavas chamesh neros bereisha. Na'avid hatavas shnei neros bereisha. So we'll say, so why is, alright, we'll say, well, actually, we'll stop over here. So just to understand where we're up to in this process. We're up to right now. I'm sorry for the speed of that last piece. We're up to right now is we've got Ma'aracha Gedola, Ma'aracha Kitana, Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. Right? So we're good over there. That outer altar. Now what? Now we've got Dishul Mizbeach HaPanimi, cleaning out of the inside Mizbeach. We've got, now we're up to menorah, right? We've got the arrangement of the 5 lamps of the menorah. Ultimately, again, then what? Blood of the Tamid, and then ultimately, again, arrangement of the last 2 parts of the menorah. What we're stuck on a little bit now is the menorah piece, right? That's what we're stuck on. The 5, Dam 2. 5, Dam 2. That's the part we're focused on right now, and in Meretz Hashem we'll get clarity tomorrow. Shkayach Havosai. Amen.
Ashreinu she'anachnu mashkimin u'ma'aridim and Rabbi Gabriel Te'amrin Hamayim Chayam.